My dad let his wife ship me off to summer camp at 12 and never came back. Hey Reddit, so I'm Maya 27F and I'm about to unleash some serious family drama. My mom died when I was little, and my dad remarried this woman, Delilah, who basically turned my life into a living hell. I was always the shadow of my perfect, dead mom, and Delilah knew how to pull my dad's strings. It was like they were a tag team, and I was the punching bag. She always had this hold over him, and he just let her. He never protected me, always took her side. It was a nightmare. I'm finally ready to tell the whole story. You guys won't believe what she did. It was the summer I turned 12. Delilah was all smiles as she drove me to Camp Hemlock, chattering about how much fun I'd have. I was actually kind of excited. It was my first time at sleepaway camp, and I'd packed my favorite stuffed animal, a beat-up copy of Anne of Green Gables, and a brand new flashlight. I even had a special stationery set so I could write letters home. God, I was so naive. We pulled up to the dusty parking lot, and Delilah helped me unload my trunk. Then she gave me a hug, a quick, stiff one. It felt off. And then she said it. The words that ripped through my 12-year-old world and left it in shattered pieces. Have fun, Maya, she said, her smile not quite reaching her eyes. We don't need reminders of your mother anymore, don't expect us back. My stomach dropped. What do you mean? I asked, my voice small and shaky. My hands started to tremble. She just smiled, this tight, awful smile. Your father and I are starting over, somewhere fresh. This is for the best. She patted my shoulder, got back in the car, and drove away just like that. Like I was some forgotten piece of luggage. I stood there, dust swirling around my ankles, my trunk at my feet, feeling the blood drain from my face. No, this couldn't be happening. It felt like a nightmare, a cruel joke. I wanted to scream, to run after the car, to beg her to come back, but my legs felt like lead. I was paralyzed. I remember clutching my stuffed animal, Mr. Snuggles, to my chest, tears streaming down my face. I didn't even make a sound, just these choked sobs. A camp counselor came over, this perky teenager with braids, and asked if I was okay. I just shook my head, unable to speak. I felt like I was going to throw up. I felt like I was going to die. I immediately called my Aunt Chloe, my mom's sister, hysterical. She was the only person I could think of. She promised she'd figure it out. When she called my dad, he just said he was dealing with it in his own way. Dealing with it? He didn't even deny it. Delilah, when Chloe finally got a hold of her, said something about my dad not being cut out for this and how she needed to protect him. Protect him from me? A 12-year-old. I stayed at that camp all summer. All summer. I can still feel the hollow ache in my chest, the constant knot in my stomach. I knew deep down that something fundamental had shifted. I was alone, truly, utterly alone. And it was all because of them, because of him. He let her do this to me. I remember Aunt Chloe showing up at camp a few weeks later, her face etched with worry. She hugged me tight, and I just sobbed into her shoulder. It was the first time I'd felt even remotely safe since Delilah left me there. She took me back to her small apartment, which was crammed with books and smelled like cinnamon and old paper. It was a stark contrast to the sterile cabin at camp. Over the next few days, Chloe tried to get in touch with my dad again. She wanted him to come and get me, to explain himself, to do something. Finally, he agreed to talk on the phone. I remember sitting at Chloe's kitchen table, clutching the receiver so tightly my knuckles were white. My hand was shaking so badly I could barely hold it. Dad, I whispered, my voice trembling. Why did you leave me there? There was a long pause. I could hear him breathing on the other end, this heavy, ragged sound. Maya, he finally said, his voice flat and emotionless. Delilah and we needed some time. It's been hard, since your mother. Hard, I choked out. You abandoned me, you left me at camp with strangers. Don't be dramatic, Maya, he snapped. You were safe, you were fine. Delilah just thought it would be best for everyone. Best for everyone, I wanted to scream. Best for who? Certainly not for me. We're working things out, he said, his voice tight. Just give us some time. Time. I repeated, feeling a cold dread creep into my heart. How much time? When are you coming to get me? Another long pause, then the words that still haunt me to this day. We'll see, Maya, just stay with your aunt for now, we'll be in touch. He hung up, just hung up. I stared at the phone in disbelief, tears streaming down my face. Chloe rushed over, wrapping her arms around me. I remember shaking uncontrollably, my whole body convulsing with sobs. I felt betrayed, abandoned, discarded, like I was nothing. Chloe kept murmuring soothing words, stroking my hair, but I couldn't hear them. All I could hear was the dial tone, the echo of my father's empty promises. That's when it hit me. This wasn't normal. This wasn't just a rough patch or a misunderstanding. This was something sick, twisted. My own father, the person who was supposed to protect me, love me unconditionally, had chosen his new wife over his own daughter. He had abandoned me, and he didn't even care. That phone call, that cold dismissal, that's the moment I realized my family was toxic, irrevocably broken, and I was completely, utterly alone. A few weeks later, the trickle of child support checks my dad sent started arriving. Like clockwork, the bare minimum enough to technically fulfill his legal obligation, but not a penny more. Not a phone call, not a card, nothing. It was like I ceased to exist. He went from barely there to fully ghosting me. Then the real kicker. My grandma, his mother, called. I hadn't spoken to her much since my mom died. She was always sweet to me but distant. I picked up, hoping for, I don't know what, an apology. Some explanation. Maya dear, she started, her voice all sugary sweetness. I'm so worried about your father. He's been so distraught since you know. I bristled. Since he abandoned me. Distraught, he abandoned me, Grandma. He left me at summer camp and never came back. Now Maya, she tutted. That's not entirely fair. Your father is a good man, he's just lost. He's been under a lot of stress, and Delilah, well, she's been a real comfort to him. A comfort to him. Are you kidding me? I saw red. Comfort, she's the one who told him to leave me. She's the reason I was stranded at camp all summer. Delilah is just trying to help, Grandma said, her voice getting sharper. She's been so good to your father. You need to understand, Maya, she's his wife now. You need to respect that. Respect that? I wanted to throw the phone across the room. Respect what? Her blatant disregard for my well-being, her manipulating my father into abandoning his own child. Don't be disrespectful, young lady, Grandma snapped. Your father is going through a difficult time. He needs support, not accusations. And frankly, you're not making things any easier. Not making things any easier. This is victim blaming at its finest. I was speechless. I hung up, shaking with rage. So now I'm the bad guy. I'm the one making things difficult, because I dare to call out their atrocious behavior. It's been affecting me so much. I can barely sleep. I'm constantly on edge, waiting for the next attack, the next attempt to twist the narrative. I'm starting to question my own sanity. Am I overreacting? Am I the problem? Therapy is helping, but this is a whole new level of messed up. I'm starting to realize I can't just let this go. I need to do something. I need to fight back. I don't know what that looks like yet, but I can't just sit here and let them rewrite history. They stole my childhood, they tried to steal my sense of self-worth, and now they're trying to steal my voice. Well, I'm not going to let them. Not anymore. Okay, so after that whole grandma debacle, I was a mess. I felt like I was drowning in the sea of gaslighting and crazy making. I seriously started questioning my own memories. Like maybe I was overreacting. Maybe it wasn't that bad. Maybe I was the problem. Toxic families do that to you, right? They make you question your own sanity. I was talking to my therapist, Dr. Lee, about it all. She's been amazing, helping me work through the abandonment issues and anxiety, but even she seemed taken aback by my grandma's reaction. She kept saying things like, "That's a very interesting perspective, and it sounds like your family has some very unique ways of communicating." Which, in therapist speak, means, holy crap, your family is bonkers. But the real turning point came when I finally opened up to my Aunt Chloe about the whole thing. I'd told her bits and pieces over the years, but I'd never really gone into the nitty-gritty details of how my dad and Delilah completely erased me from their lives. I was ashamed, like it was somehow my fault. It was a rainy Saturday afternoon, and I was at Chloe's apartment, curled up on her couch with a mug of hot chocolate. We were talking about I don't even remember what, and then it just spilled out. "Chloe," I started, my voice shaky, "I need to tell you something I haven't really talked about." She put down her book and looked at me, her eyes full of concern. "What is it, sweetie?" I took a deep breath and told her everything. About the summer camp abandonment, the lack of contact, the child support checks, the grandma phone call. The whole 9 yards. I even told her about the doubts creeping into my mind, how I was starting to question my own sanity. When I finished, there was a long silence. Chloe just stared at me, her mouth slightly open. Then she said something that completely changed my perspective. "Maya," she said, her voice soft but firm, "none of this is your fault. Not one bit." I started to cry. Not loud, dramatic sobs, but these quiet, shaky tears that just kept flowing. It was like a dam had broken inside me. "But Grandma said," I started, my voice choked with emotion. "Your grandma is wrong," Chloe interrupted, her voice sharp. "She's been enabling your father's behavior for years. She's chosen to believe his version of the story, the version that absolves him of any responsibility. She doesn't want to see the truth because the truth is too painful. The truth is your father failed you. He chose Delilah over you, and that is not okay. Hearing those words, hearing someone finally validate my feelings, it was like a weight had been lifted off my chest. I felt this surge of relief, and anger, and a strange sense of empowerment. I don't understand, I whispered, wiping my tears. How could he do that? How could he just forget about me? Chloe sighed and pulled me into a hug. Maya, she said softly, your father's actions are a reflection of his weaknesses and insecurities, not a reflection of your worth. He's broken, Maya, and broken people hurt others. It doesn't make it right, but it explains it. That right there was the game changer. It was like a light bulb went off in my head. My dad's abandonment wasn't about me. It was about him, his inability to cope with the loss of my mom, his dependence on Delilah, his weakness. It was about his brokenness, not my worthlessness. He's not some all-powerful figure anymore, Chloe continued, her voice firm. He's just a flawed, broken man, and you don't have to let his brokenness define you. You are worthy of love, you are worthy of happiness, you are worthy of a family that cherishes you. And you will find that, Maya, with or without him. That conversation with Chloe was a turning point. It gave me the strength to start building my own identity, my own sense of self-worth, independent of my parents. It was the beginning of my healing journey, and it was the first step towards finally breaking free from the toxic grip of my family's past. I still had a long way to go, but for the first time in a long time I felt a flicker of hope. I wasn't alone, I had Chloe, and that I realized was enough. My phone started blowing up, call after call, all from the same number, a number I didn't recognize. I ignored the first few, figuring it was a telemarketer or something. But then the texts started coming. Urgent, call back immediately. Hospital, Arthur Miller. My stomach dropped. Arthur Miller, my dad, I hadn't heard from him in years. What the hell was going on? Finally I answered, it was a nurse. My dad was in the hospital, terminal pancreatic cancer. Stage 4, weeks maybe days left, and Delilah, gone, vamoosed. The nurse said she hadn't seen her in days. Apparently Delilah had cleaned out their joint bank account and disappeared. Just left him there to die. I hung up, my hands shaking. My Aunt Chloe, who was in the kitchen making tea, saw my face and rushed over. Maya, what is it? What's wrong? I told her everything. The nurse, the hospital, my dad, the cancer, and Delilah. Oh God, Delilah. The woman who abandoned me at summer camp, the woman who poisoned my father against me, the woman who systematically erased me from their lives, had now abandoned him. The irony was thick. It was almost poetic justice. Almost. Chloe just stared at me, her face pale. Oh honey, she whispered, pulling me into a hug. And then it happened. Something inside me snapped. All the years of suppressed anger, all the hurt, all the resentment, it all came flooding to the surface. I felt this surge of rage, this white-hot fury that coursed through my veins. I pushed Chloe away, not roughly but firmly. I couldn't be touched. I couldn't be comforted, not now. I started pacing, my heart pounding in my chest. I felt like I was going to explode. She left him, I muttered, my voice shaking. She just left him after everything, after all the damage she caused. I stopped pacing and looked at Chloe, my eyes burning with a newfound intensity. I need to go there, I said, my voice firm. I need to see him. Chloe looked at me, her eyes wide with concern. Maya, are you sure, after everything he's done? I don't care what he's done, I said, my voice hard. He's my father, and she left him to die, alone, just like she left me. Something changed in that moment. I wasn't a victim anymore. I wasn't a scared little girl, abandoned and forgotten. I was a woman with a purpose. I was going to face my demons, confront the ghosts of my past, and finally demand some answers. I didn't know what I would say, what I would do, but I knew one thing: I wasn't going to let them win. Not this time. This wasn't about forgiveness. This was about closure. This was about taking control. This was about finally reclaiming my power. I needed to see him, not for him but for me. I had to know why. Why he let her do it. Why he abandoned me. Why he chose her over me. I started making plans. I booked a flight, packed a bag, and called my therapist. I knew this was going to be hard, that it would probably reopen old wounds, but I didn't care. I was ready. I had to do this. For me. For the 12-year-old girl who was left standing alone in a dusty parking lot, clutching a stuffed animal and a broken heart. For the young woman who had spent years grappling with the fallout of their betrayal. For the woman I was finally becoming. I was going to face them. And this time I wouldn't back down. Okay, Reddit, buckle up, because this is where the real preparation begins. I knew going into this that I couldn't just show up at the hospital a blubbering mess. I needed a plan. I needed to be strategic. This wasn't just about seeing my dying father, it was about confronting him, about finally getting answers. And let's be real, about protecting myself from whatever fresh hell Delilah had undoubtedly unleashed on his finances. First, I gathered everything I could. Old photos, letters or lack thereof, the meager child support checks, all CASHED, BTW, and meticulously documented by Aunt Chloe, bless her organized soul. I even dug up my old camp registration forms and anything that proved I was actually abandoned there. Proof. Because with people like my dad and Delilah, you need receipts. You need hard evidence. Then I did some serious research. Healthcare proxy, power of attorney, inheritance laws. I needed to know my rights. I wasn't about to let Delilah waltz back in and claim everything after she'd bled him dry and abandoned him. No way. I contacted a lawyer specializing in elder abuse and financial exploitation. Just in case. I needed to be prepared for anything. My therapist, Dr. Lee, was my rock during this whole process. She helped me develop a script for the confrontation, focusing on specific questions I needed answered. Why did he let Delilah send me away? What was he thinking? Did he even care? We practiced different scenarios, anticipating his potential responses and how I would react. This was my chance to finally have my voice heard. I wasn't going to let emotions derail me. And Aunt Chloe, my MVP. She was my sounding board, my emotional support, my logistics queen. She helped me book the flight, find a hotel near the hospital, and even packed a confrontation survival kit with snacks, tissues, and a stress ball, which I absolutely destroyed on the plane. The mental preparation was the hardest part. I had to steel myself for the possibility that my dad might deny everything, that he might try to manipulate me, that he might not even remember abandoning me at camp. I had to prepare for the worst. I practiced staying detached, focusing on the facts, on getting the answers I deserved. I visualized the scenario over and over in my head, preparing for every possible outcome. Detachment was my mantra. Objectivity my shield. Honestly, I was terrified. Terrified of falling back into old patterns, of letting my dad's weakness and Delilah's toxicity pull me under. But I was also determined. This was my chance to finally break free, to take back my power, to rewrite the narrative. I was going in there armed with facts, with support, and with a newfound sense of self-worth that they couldn't touch. I was ready. Let us do this. The hospital room was sterile, smelling faintly of antiseptic and something vaguely metallic. My dad, Arthur, lay in the bed, shrunken and frail, hooked up to a tangle of tubes and wires. He looked small. Not the towering figure I remembered from my childhood, but a fragile, broken man. Seeing him like this, so weak and vulnerable, it was unsettling. I pulled up a chair and sat beside his bed, my hands clasped tightly in my lap. The silence stretched, thick and heavy. I could hear the rhythmic beeping of the machines, the faint murmur of voices from the hallway. Finally, I broke the silence. "Dad," I said, my voice surprisingly steady. His eyes flickered open, and he looked at me, a flicker of recognition in his cloudy gaze. "Maya," he whispered, his voice raspy. "It's me," I said, my voice softening slightly. He closed his eyes again, a grimace of pain twisting his features. I messed up, Maya," he mumbled, his voice barely audible. "I messed up everything." I took a deep breath, reminding myself to stay detached, to stick to the plan. "You abandoned me," I said, my voice firm. "At summer camp. You let Delilah send me away and you never came back." He opened his eyes again, tears welling up. I know," he whispered, his voice choked with emotion. "I was weak. Delilah, she had this hold over me. Couldn't what?" I pressed, my voice hardening. "Couldn't stand up to her, couldn't protect your own daughter." He turned his head away, his face contorted in shame. I was scared," he mumbled. "Scared of losing her, scared of being alone, scared of being alone, after leaving me alone." The irony was almost unbearable. "And what about now?" I asked, my voice laced with bitterness. "Where is she now, Dad, when you need her the most?" He didn't answer. He just lay there, his eyes closed, tears streaming down his face. I knew the answer. Delilah was gone. She had taken what she wanted and disappeared, leaving him to face the consequences of his actions alone, just like she had done to me. She left," he finally whispered, his voice breaking. "Took everything, the money, the house, everything." I felt a surge of anger, but I pushed it down. This wasn't about Delilah. This was about him, about finally getting the answers I deserved. "Why, Dad?" I asked, my voice rising. Why did you let her do it? Why did you choose her over me? He opened his eyes and looked at me, his gaze filled with a profound sadness. I didn't choose her over you, Maya, he whispered, his voice trembling. I wasn't strong enough. I was the father you deserved. And there it was, the admission I had been waiting for, the validation I had craved for so long. He wasn't strong enough. He was the father I deserved. It wasn't an excuse, but it was an explanation. And in that moment, something shifted. The power dynamic, the years of him holding all the cards, it was gone. I finally saw him, not as the all-powerful figure of my childhood, but as a flawed, broken man, and that strangely was liberating. He reached out a trembling hand and weakly grasped mine. I'm sorry, Maya, he whispered, his voice barely a breath. I'm so sorry. I looked down at his hand, at the age spots and the papery skin. I thought about all the years I had spent yearning for his love, for his approval, for his protection. And I realized that it didn't matter anymore. I didn't need it. I had found my own strength, my own worth. I had built my own life, independent of him, and that was enough. I know, I said softly, my voice filled with a strange mix of sadness and relief. And in that moment, I knew I was finally free. It's been 6 months since my dad passed. The immediate aftermath was a whirlwind. I became his healthcare proxy, which meant dealing with doctors, nurses, and a mountain of paperwork. It was exhausting, both physically and emotionally. And then there was Delilah, or more accurately, the lack of Delilah. She was a ghost, vanished into thin air. Turns out, she hadn't just cleaned out their joint account. She'd taken out a second mortgage on the house, maxed out credit cards in my dad's name, and even sold his car. The lawyer I'd contacted was livid. He said it was a textbook case of financial exploitation. We're still pursuing legal action against her, but honestly, I don't expect to recover much. It's more about the principle of the thing at this point. She can't just get away with this. My dad passed away a week after I arrived. It was peaceful. He was barely conscious, but I held his hand, told him I loved him and that I forgave him. I don't know if he heard me, but it felt right. Like I was finally closing a chapter. I was there when he took his last breath. There was a small life insurance policy, barely enough to cover the funeral expenses and a few outstanding medical bills. But there was one unexpected silver lining. I inherited a small amount, just enough to pay off my student loans. Symbolic, right? Like I was finally free from the financial burdens of the past. Aunt Chloe has been my absolute rock through all of this. She helped me navigate the legal mess, plan the funeral, and just be there. She's family. The kind of family I always wished I had. We're closer than ever now, and I'm so grateful for her unwavering support. As for other family members, well, let's just say some people surprised me. My grandma actually called to offer condolences, but there was still this underlying tone of blaming me for something. I didn't engage. I just thanked her for the call and hung up. I'm done with that kind of toxicity. The biggest change has been within myself. I feel stronger. More resilient, like I've finally shed the weight of the past. I'm free. I'm no longer defined by my parents' failures or Delilah's cruelty. I'm my own person. I'm building a life I'm proud of, surrounded by people who love and support me. I've started dating again, and while it's still scary sometimes, I'm learning to trust again. This whole experience has been traumatic, to say the least, but it's also been incredibly empowering. I learned that forgiveness doesn't mean condoning bad behavior. It means letting go of the anger and resentment that was holding me back. It means choosing to focus on my own healing and happiness. It means finally reclaiming my power. So, Reddit, that's my story. It's messy, it's complicated, and it's definitely not over yet. But I'm finally moving forward. Has anyone else dealt with similar family drama? How did you cope? I'd love to hear your stories. Thanks for listening.